Ladies and gentlemen, I want to begin tonight with a simple idea, a big idea, one that has the power to turn your whole life around in a single evening. It's the idea that your life can change the moment you finally decide you're not going to live the way you've been living. That moment when you say, I've had it. Not, I wish things would change. Not, wouldn't it be nice? Not, maybe next year. No. The moment you draw the line in the sand and say, that's it. I'm done with the old story. Now, that moment doesn't end the journey, but it begins it. And beginnings are powerful. I remember my own beginning. I was 25, broke, embarrassed, hiding from the knocks at my door. One day, a little Girl Scout came by, polite, confident, ready to sell her product. And I gave her the big lie. I said, young lady, I'd love to buy your cookies, but I've already bought some. She smiled, thanked me, and walked away. And when that door closed, I sat down and said the words that changed my life. I don't want to live like this anymore. That was my moment of disgust, my moment of truth, my moment of I've had it. See, sometimes it only takes a small embarrassment to expose a big problem. And often, the pain you feel on the inside becomes the signal for the change you need on the outside. Tonight, I want to talk about 7 habits, quiet little habits that slowly, silently push a person toward mediocrity. I call them loser habits. Not because the person is a loser, no. But because these habits make you lose time, lose money, lose confidence, lose opportunity. And most people don't even know they're carrying them around. The good news is this. If you can identify these habits, if you can shine a light on them, and if you can replace them with discipline, with ambition, with truth, you can turn your entire direction in life. Tonight could be that turning point. So let's begin this journey together. But before we dive into the first habit, remember this. The day you say, I've had it, is the day your better future begins. Now let's talk about the first habit, the one that sits quietly in the corner of your life. Smiling, harmless looking, but dangerous as a snake. I call it the habit of honest lies. These aren't the big lies you tell other people. No, those are easy to spot. These are the small lies you tell yourself. And they sound so reasonable, so polite, almost noble. You know the ones. I'll start tomorrow. It's not the right time. I don't need to write it down. I'll remember. I'll do it when I feel ready. Let me tell you something, and you might want to write this down. Every life failure begins as a beautifully packaged excuse. It's astonishing how clever we can be when we're trying to avoid responsibility. The mind works overtime. It becomes a little factory manufacturing excuses day and night. And the worst part, we believe them. I once met a man who had been starting tomorrow for 20 years. 20 years. He had plans. He had dreams. Big ones. But every time I saw him, he'd say, Jim, you'll see, one of these days. And folks, one of these days turned into none of those days. The problem with self-deception is that it gently rocks you to sleep. You don't drift downward with drama. You drift downward with comfort. A little postponement here. A little excuse there. A little not today sprinkled throughout the week. And suddenly, you look up and 10 years have vanished. I learned this lesson the hard way. When that Girl Scout walked away from my door, I realized something. I wasn't lying to her. I was lying to myself. I was pretending I was doing okay. Pretending I had things under control. Pretending life would magically change without me changing. But life doesn't reward pretenders. Life rewards those who tell themselves the truth. Let me give you the formula that saved me. If it's easy, I'll do it easy. If it's hard, I'll do it hard. But I'll get it done. That single sentence replaced 1,000 excuses. Because the moment you eliminate the option of excuses, only one thing remains: action. So here's the first challenge tonight. Very simple. Very uncomfortable. Ask yourself one question. What truth have I been avoiding? Not the truth about your job. Not the truth about your finances. The truth about you. Because if you can fix the truth you're hiding from yourself, you can fix everything else. And if you don't, well, then the excuses will run your life. Quietly, softly, and completely. All right, that's the first habit. The habit of honest lies. Let's break it. Let's replace it. And let's move to the next one. Now, the second habit is one Jim Rohn talked about with a mixture of humor and heartbreak. It's the habit of living with a cheap mindset. Not frugal, not wise with money, cheap. Let me tell you the story he loved to tell. Picture a man standing in the grocery store aisle. Not a man with nothing, no. This man has potential, ideas, dreams. And his wife is standing there, holding 2 cans of beans. One costs 37 cents. The other costs 39 cents. And she doesn't like the 37-cent brand, but she buys it anyway. And the husband, he knows why. To save 2 cents. And the thought of that, those 2 cents makes him sick inside. Ladies and gentlemen, that's not a financial problem. That's a philosophical problem. See, poverty in the wallet is tough. But poverty in the mind, that's fatal. A cheap mindset doesn't just underpay for beans. It underpays for books. It underpays for growth. It underpays for opportunity. It underpays for the future. Cheap thinkers say things like, why spend money learning when you can survive without it? Why invest in better tools when the old ones haven't broken yet? Why upgrade your environment when you're used to the clutter? Let me tell you why. Because the price of staying the same is far more expensive than the price of becoming better. The cheap mindset doesn't understand leverage, doesn't understand identity, doesn't understand the cost of inaction. Jim Rohn used to say, you cannot build $1 million life with a 10-cent philosophy. And folks, it's true. You can't outgrow the philosophy you carry around in your pocket. Now, I'm not telling you to be reckless. I'm telling you to invest in learning, invest in tools, invest in environment. Because here's what I learned. Cheap decisions create a cheap future. When I was broke, someone introduced me to the idea of a growth fund, not a retirement account, not a savings account, a growth fund. A small budget for books, courses, travel, mentors, better tools, anything that improved my capacity. You'd be surprised how far $20, $50, $100 a month can go when it's spent on improvement rather than entertainment. Let me give you something simple you can do starting tonight. Begin a small, weekly investment in your own development. Buy 1 book. Upgrade 1 tool. Organize 1 corner of your environment. Add 1 thing to your life that feels worthy of the future you want. Not because it's luxurious, not because it's trendy, but because it signals something powerful to yourself. I am worth more than the 37-cent version of my life. That's how you break the cheap mindset. Not with money, with philosophy. All right? That's habit number 2. Let's keep going. We've got bigger ones coming. Now let's move to the third habit. And this one is a silent killer of potential. It's the habit of surviving but never improving. You'd be amazed how many people are alive but not really living. They wake up, they go to work, they come home, they eat dinner, they watch a little TV, they go to bed, and then they do it again. And again, and again. And after about 10 years, they call it a life. But let me tell you something. And I hope you hear it clearly. Survival is not success. Habit is not progress. And comfort is not growth. Now, don't get me wrong. Surviving is necessary. We all need to pay the bills, eat the food, handle the basics. But here's the question. Is survival all you're asking of yourself? Because improvement is optional, and most people never choose it. I once talked to a man who had been at his job for 40 years. 40 years. And I asked him, how many years of experience do you have? He said, 40. I said, no, my friend, you've got 1 year of experience, repeated 40 times. See, surviving keeps you at the same level. Improving keeps lifting you to the next one. Jim Rohn used to say, don't wish it were easier, wish you were better. That's improvement. That's the difference. Most people are trying to improve the circumstances without improving the self. They want a raise without skills. They want confidence without discipline. They want success without sacrifice. But the world doesn't work that way. The world is designed to reward the person you become, not the person you pretend to be. So how do we break this habit of surviving? You build systems of improvement, small ones, simple ones, consistent ones. Here are 3 that changed my life. 1, the weekly skills session. Just 1 hour a week learning a new skill. Sales, communication, leadership, writing, anything. Don't underestimate 1 hour. 1 hour a week is 52 hours a year. That's more than most people do in a decade. 2, the 10-page rule. Jim Rohn said reading is one of the best ways to upgrade your philosophy. You don't need to read a book a week, just 10 pages a day. 10 pages compound into hundreds of pages. And those pages compound into a different mind. 3, the better next week list. Every Sunday, sit down and write 1 sentence. What will I do next week that's better than last week? Not 10 things. 1 thing. Because 1 improvement a week is 52 improvements a year. That's how you change direction. You do it gradually. You do it consistently. You do it deliberately. Let me leave you with this. Survival asks, what do I need to do to get by? Improvement asks, who do I need to become to get ahead? Choose improvement. Survival is automatic, but growth must be chosen. All right? That's habit number 3. Let's move forward, because the next one might be the most influential of all. Now, let's talk about the 4th habit, and listen carefully, because this one may explain more of your life than you realize. It's the habit of associating with the wrong 5 people. Jim Rohn used to say, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And when I first heard that, I thought, 5 people? Surely it can't be that simple. But over the years, I discovered something powerful. If you show me your 5, I can show you your future. It's almost mathematical. If 5 of your closest friends smoke, you will smoke. If 5 complain, you'll complain. If 5 are broke, you'll be broke. If 5 are growing, you'll grow. Human beings are contagious creatures. We pick up habits, language, energy, expectations without even knowing it. And most of the time, it's subtle. You don't wake up one day and say, my circle ruined my life. It happens quietly, gradually. A little negativity here, a little gossip there, a little low ambition floating around the room, and suddenly your standards begin to slide. I met a young man once who was full of ambition, sharp kid. But every time he got excited about a new idea, his friends would say, oh, come on, who do you think you are? You start a business? Don't get your hopes up. And after a while, he stopped trying. Not because he wasn't capable, but because he was surrounded by 5 people who had never tried anything themselves. Jim Rohn broke people into 3 categories. And it's wise advice. 1, people to avoid, not because they are bad, but because they are dangerous to your future. They drain your energy, lower your standards, and sabotage your goals. Avoid them politely but firmly. 2, people to limit. These are the folks who are fun to talk to, nice to meet for lunch, but not qualified to shape your destiny. Limit the time, keep the peace, protect the vision. 3, people to pursue. This is where the magic happens. People who think bigger, move faster, believe deeper. People who sharpen you, challenge you, interrupt your complaining, push you higher. If you can't find them in person, find them in books, find them in audio, find them in courses. Jim Rohn used to say, you can sit with the masters every night, just open the pages. Let me ask you a question, and I want you to answer honestly. Who are your 5? Do they inspire you or exhaust you? Do they challenge you or comfort your mediocrity? Do they lift your standards or lower them? Do they talk about people or goals? Do they protect your excuses or destroy them? Because here's the truth, and if you forget everything else tonight, remember this. Your friends are a preview of your future. If you want to change your life, you may need to change your circle. Not out of arrogance, not out of superiority, but out of responsibility. Your destiny is too important to leave it in the hands of people who don't have one of their own. That's habit number 4. And if you shift this habit, the rest of your life will shift with it. Now let's move to the 5th habit, and this one has become more dangerous today than ever before. It's the habit of consuming without acting, watching without doing, learning without applying, motivation without movement. You know, when I started out, there wasn't much self-help around. A few books, a few seminars, a few old recordings you could barely hear on those scratchy tapes. But today, oh my, you can watch 1,000 videos before lunch. You can download 100 quotes by dinner. You can sit on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, and consume more inspiration in one evening than some people used to get in a lifetime. And yet, listen carefully. Most people are more motivated than ever and accomplishing less than ever. Why? Because they've fallen into what I call the self-help trap. The trap of thinking about doing instead of doing. The trap of planning instead of executing. The trap of telling yourself you're making progress just because you're watching someone else make it. Jim Rohn used to warn us about this. He said, affirmation without discipline is the beginning of delusion. Isn't that powerful? The beginning of delusion. The man who tells himself, I am successful, while doing nothing that successful people do, he's not affirming. He's hallucinating. I once knew a gentleman who attended every seminar, bought every book, watched every tape I ever made. He could quote me better than I could quote myself. But year after year, nothing changed. And one day I said to him, my friend, you don't need more notes. You need more discipline. He didn't like that very much. But it was the truth. See, information is not transformation. Motivation is not discipline. Consumption is not creation. If you want a new life, you need new actions, not new videos, not new books, not new clever quotes to post online, new actions. So let me give you a simple rule that I wish someone had given me earlier in life. I call it the doer ratio. For every hour of content you consume, spend 2 hours acting on it. If you watch a video on discipline, do something disciplined immediately. If you read a book on leadership, lead someone that day. If you hear a message on fitness, get up and move your body. Because the mind learns by hearing, but it grows by doing. And most people are overfed on knowledge and starving for action. Let me make it even simpler. Every day, do one act of resolve. 1, not 10. 1. Something that proves to yourself that you're serious about change. Wake up earlier. Say no to something that doesn't serve you. Write 1 page in your journal. Clean 1 corner of your life. Do something that requires willpower, something that interrupts the old you. Because until you show your mind that you mean business, your mind will treat your goals like entertainment. Nice to watch, fun to imagine, but not real. Here's the truth. The world doesn't admire the watchers. The world admires the doers. So let's break this habit. Let's stop being spectators in our own lives, and let's step into the arena where change actually happens. All right, 5 habits down, 2 more to go. And the next one is a big one. Now let's move to the 6th habit. And this one, if you master it, will put you ahead of 95% of the population. It's the habit of not writing down your goals, not thinking about them, not talking about them, not dreaming about them, writing them down. Jim Rohn used to say something so simple, so profound, it should be printed on the front of every notebook. Goals are not optional. Goals are your compass. Goals are your map. Goals are your blueprint for the future. And yet here's the tragedy. Most people have no blueprint. They wake up and let the day tell them what to do. They let circumstances decide their direction. They live by reaction instead of intention. And then they wonder why life feels confusing. Ladies and gentlemen, a life without written goals is like a ship without a rudder. It still moves, but it moves wherever the wind blows. I remember asking a young man once, what are your goals for the next 5 years? He said, improve my life. I said, that's wonderful. Now write it down. He said, well, I know what they are. I said, no, my friend, you don't know them until you have to put them on paper. Writing forces clarity. Writing forces honesty. Writing forces commitment. See, a goal in your head is a wish. A goal on paper is a contract. Let me give you the 4 questions. Jim Rohn taught me 4 questions that will turn your mind into a direction machine. 1. What do you want? Not what your parents want. Not what your boss wants. Not what society wants. What do you want? Write it down. 2. Why do you want it? The why gives the goal its emotional juice. It's what pulls you out of bed on the mornings you don't feel like it. No strong why. No strong future. 3. What must you change to achieve it? Because goals don't require more luck, they require more you. More skills. More habits. More discipline. 4. What must you become? This is the big one. You don't get the goal by staying the same person. You grow into the person the goal requires. Goals pull you upward. They force evolution. Let me share something Jim Rohn used to remind us of. Don't set goals for what they get you. Set goals for what they make of you. That's the magic. The house, the car, the income, those are trophies. The real prize is the identity you forge along the way. Now, here's a practical exercise, and if you do only this tonight, your life will change direction. Sit down with a blank page and write. These are the 10 goals I will achieve in the next 12 months. Don't overthink. Don't edit. Don't judge. Just write. Your mind knows what you want. It's your pen that's been lazy. And then, once a week, rewrite them. Rewrite them because repetition builds belief. Rewrite them because clarity deepens. Rewrite them because every time you put your goals on paper, you remind your subconscious where you intend to go. Let me leave you with this. Goals are the seeds of your future, but seeds don't grow in the mind, they grow on paper. All right, that's habit number 6. Now let's move to the final one. And this one may be the most emotionally powerful of them all. Now we arrive at the 7th and final habit. And if the others weaken your life slowly, this one stops your life entirely. It's the habit of never having a true moment of resolve. Resolve. What a powerful word. Jim Rohn used to say, resolve says, I will, not I might, not I hope, not I'll try, I will. 2 of the most powerful words in the human language. Let me tell you what resolve feels like. It feels like knots in your stomach. It feels like waking up at 3 in the morning, staring at the ceiling, saying, this has gone on long enough. It feels like the quiet decision that this time is different. Most people never reach that moment. Oh, they want to change. Yes. They talk about change. Yes. They get excited about change. Yes. But when it comes to forming that deep internal vow, the one that separates the old life from the new, they hesitate. They retreat. They negotiate. And without resolve, life becomes a long list of almost disciplined, almost healthy, almost successful, almost confident, almost ready, but never resolved. Let me give you one of Jim Rohn's favorite stories. He said there was a man standing at the bottom of a mountain, and everyone told him, it's too high, it's too far, it's too rocky, it's too dangerous. No one has ever climbed it. And the man answered, it's my mountain, and I will climb it. Soon you'll see me waving from the top or dead on the side, because I'm not coming back. Now that, my friends, is resolve. And when a human being reaches that level of determination, the world steps aside. Life rearranges itself to accommodate the person who has finally decided. One day, Jim Rohn asked a classroom full of junior high students, who can tell me what resolve means? A little girl raised her hand and said, Mr. Rohn, I think resolve means promising yourself you will never give up. He said, that's it, Webster, move aside. Let me ask you something. Have you ever made a promise to yourself you refuse to break? Not to someone else. To yourself? Because until you do, your life will remain negotiable. Your goals? Negotiable. Your habits? Negotiable. Your identity? Negotiable. Resolve closes the negotiation. Resolve says, this is who I am now. Resolve turns distraction into noise. It turns obstacles into training. It turns discipline into identity. So let me give you the exercise that has changed many lives. Sit down tonight and write a single sentence. Just one. A sentence that declares what you will no longer tolerate. A never again sentence. Never again will I let laziness run my life. Never again will I break my word to myself. Never again will I live below my potential. And after you write it, perform one symbolic act. Rip up the old clothes you don't want to see yourself in anymore. Delete the apps that keep stealing your time. Throw away the junk that represents the old you. End a toxic attachment. Take a step that says, I've had it. Doesn't matter how small the act is. What matters is the meaning behind it. Because every major life transformation begins with one definitive moment. One moment where you tell the universe, I am serious this time. Let me give you a truth worth remembering. The world cannot resist a person who has finally decided. It can delay you. It can challenge you. But it cannot stop you. That's resolve. And that's the turning point. All right. 7 habits revealed. 7 habits replaced. And now we bring everything together. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of our journey together tonight. And what a journey it's been. We walked through 7 habits, quiet little habits that most people never notice, yet they shape their entire destiny. We talked about the lies we tell ourselves and how they keep us comfortable but stuck. We talked about the cheap mindset and how saving pennies can cost you years. We talked about surviving instead of improving, living the same year over and over and calling it a life. We talked about the influence of the wrong 5 people and how your circle becomes your future. We talked about consuming without acting, getting full on motivation but starving for discipline. We talked about living without written goals, drifting instead of directing. And finally, we talked about resolve, that inner decision where everything changes. And now, here you are, sitting with all this knowledge, all this insight, all these tools. The question becomes, what will you do with it? Because listening is the first step. But doing is the step that makes all the difference. Jim Rohn would say, don't be a listener only, be a doer. And maybe tonight, just maybe, is your moment of clarity, your moment of truth, your moment of, I've had it. Maybe you're tired of the excuses, tired of the drift, tired of the story you've been telling yourself for too long. Maybe tonight is the night you finally say, enough, and you step into a new identity. Not next week, not next month. Tonight, let me leave you with one gentle reminder, and then I'll let you go. You play a part. Life plays a part too. Yes. Circumstances play a part. Faith, family, environment, these all play their part. But you play the starring role. You decide. You act. You change. And when you do your part, life has a strange, beautiful, mysterious way of doing its part too. It meets you halfway. It supports the person you become. It steps aside for someone who has finally decided. So as we wrap up tonight, here's my invitation. If this message spoke to you, don't let it fade tomorrow morning. Write one sentence, just one, a sentence that declares your new beginning. And if you're willing, share that sentence with the world. Let it be your line in the sand, your personal declaration of resolve. You've been a wonderful audience, truly. Thank you for your attention, your energy, your presence. Thank you for giving yourself this time. I wish you strong ambition, renewed discipline, life-changing decisions, and a future worthy of your potential. Good night, my friends. And may your journey from this moment forward be the greatest story you've ever told.